the Little Llangothlin Nature Reserve. So according to the sign, this was part of the traditional land of the Banbai Aboriginal people, and European settlers arrived in around 1836. What do you think about that? Let's go find some more and learn a bit more about it. Look, there's a kangaroo. It was a really windy day, the day that I walked around the lagoon, and so I normally leave the natural sounds in the videos. I'm going to be cutting a lot of them out because it's just wind noise and becomes quite irritating after a little while. Occasionally I will leave a piece in just so you can hear something else or hear something I said at the day. Otherwise, we'll try a bit of music today and a little bit of talking, and we'll see how we go. So the Little Llangothlin Nature Reserve was gazetted in December of 1979 and was formerly part of farming country, including grazing and dairying. And all the agricultural activities have ceased since then, which has allowed some regeneration, which allows some of these trees that we'll see a little bit further on. I'll show you some of that as we go around, some of the new trees that have been planted. So a lot of weed control has also been undertaken in this park to get rid of some of the invasive things like the blackberries and the nodding thistles and so on, just allowing the land to return to what it was. Now, you can't light fires in this reserve, you can't camp here, you can't fish, boat, swim or do any of those sort of activities in the water. It's purely conserved just so that the native wildlife can enjoy using the water here to nest and breed, and it's a spectacular place. If you want to watch birds, if you want to explore nature and really be a part of the natural world around you, this is a great place to come. It's often not very busy, and often I've walked around here many times and had the place completely to myself. And it's a great place first thing in the morning. If you want to see some beautiful sunrises, don't pick an overcast day like today, but some of the mornings are spectacular. You can look across the lake, watch the sun coming up, or the beautiful reflected sun in the sky, and it's an amazing place. And all the seasons are different. You'll see so many different things at different times of the year. I'll show you a few photos that I've taken on other days walking around this area, and you'll see it at some of the different times of the year. For example, later in summer there's an amazing array of flowers out, but winter's a great time to see it as well, with pristine clear skies. It's really a beautiful place. The walk takes you around the outer loop of the lagoon. As you go round, you'll come across a few remnants of the old farming practices that used to be here. We're walking now around towards an old dairy. Now, I've actually got another video on the channel, which I'll link to at the end of this video, that you can watch, where I do a full explore of this dairy, and we explore some of the machinery that's left inside the shed. We explore some of the techniques that we use to build some of this gear, and we delve into the history of this area a little bit more deeply. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in history and you want to see more of the inside of the dairy and how everything was put together. Now, a lot of this area was cleared back in the old days to make the land productive for cattle and sheep and all of these sort of things. You need to get rid of trees and have more grass. And so the way you do that is you cut down all the trees, you burn everything, and you have open grasslands. Then the erosion comes and it washes away all the good soil, and pretty quickly those early European settlers learned that the things that they did to the land weren't very good for it. Anyway, what I'm really glad to see is the National Parks and Wildlife Service have replanted heaps and heaps of trees here. A lot of these are starting to grow. And so this tree here is fascinating. Have a look at how it's grown. I can show you how it's grown. It started out as a little sapling way down here, and then as it's grown up, at some point it's probably become broken by something, and we don't know what broke it. Could have been anything, something landing on it, something jumping on it, stepping on it, whatever. There's a little stake next to it, so probably it had a little protective device around it at some point. Then as it's broken, it's healed, and it's healed and it's gone down around the corner. And have a look at that. It's gone down around the corner and it's made this beautiful little loop. And I think it's fascinating, and this is an amazing example of perseverance. There's this beautiful big tree, and when I say big, this tree would be like 3 metres tall. It's grown tremendously, and there's no signs of it holding back or deteriorating. I think it's done amazingly well. And if we have a look around, we can actually see there's even some new growth. Some of these areas here, these are all the new seeds, not seeds, all the new leaves coming on the end of these little tips of branches. How amazing is that? What a spectacular tree. Now I don't know what this little flower is, but he's a little beauty. Such a tiny little plant. You wouldn't even know it's there most of the time. But today we got lucky. We can see it opening up into a beautiful, beautiful flower. And it's little finds like this on the walk that really make it spectacular for me and make it really exciting, because I'd never seen these flowers before, never in my life, but I've been to this place many times at different times of the year, and so you really have to be there at just that right moment to find these things, and that's what just keeps bringing me back again and again. One of the other things that I really love about springtime is just all the beautiful new colours that you see in the new growth, the new leaves on the plants. I know the wind blowing everything around a bit, but I hope you can see some of those amazing new leaves. I'll soon find out if there's any magpies nesting down here, because it's that time of year they'll come swooping me quickly. Look at this beautiful big old tree. That one's just fallen over at some point back in time. We can see the remnant of a fence here. Some big holes here. If I'm not careful, I'll fall down and break my neck. You see the remnant of an old-fashioned fence. Now they don't build them like this anymore. You can see how they bored the holes straight through the post, and they had to get them all lined up perfectly straight so that the wires would all match. Then they would pull the wires through. Look at this beautiful old tree. How old do you think that one was? Oop. Try not to kill myself. Now, there's some areas here where the grass is pushed down, and we can see a lot of kangaroo poo. This could be one of the areas where the kangaroos lay down and have a rest. It's a nice sheltered spot. This tree would give them beautiful shelter, and so this could well be a spot where they come to have a camp at different times. But look at this beautiful lichen. How special is that? Definitely impressed. There's a series of old fence posts out there. Now, the odds are against me being able to get close enough to them to show you, but there's nearly always birds sitting up on top of that after they've been swimming around and hanging around in the water. We'll go for a walk and we'll see what we can get. But this lagoon would have been broken up into paddocks once upon a time, and you might be able to see some birds all flying away from me now. I've already upset them, and I would be like 70 metres away. They're quite skittish and they don't want me hanging around. If I had more time, I could just go sit there somewhere and we could just hang around and wait. There's a kangaroo over there. Again, I'm not sure, I can't see him in anymore, but he's right there underneath that big gum tree. This is a great area to see kangaroos and wallabies. Here's one that actually let me get reasonably close before he jumped away. Many of them will jump far away pretty quickly. They're a bit skittish, they don't want people hanging around. Every animal or bird or other creature seems to have this safe distance. You can get so close, and once you get within that perimeter, they don't feel safe anymore, and so they move back out of your way to a safer distance. And clearly this guy's safe distance, he doesn't think I'm too much of a threat until I get within, say, 20-30 metres of him. Then he doesn't like me anymore. But it's great that we were able to get so close. Now when you stop and have a look around the place, sometimes you get some spectacular views. Even on an overcast day, I still really enjoy seeing the reflection of the clouds on the water and the contrast of the reeds in the distance. I think this is beautiful. I love the shape of this dead tree. I think it's an amazing sculpture. Just look at the different shapes, the positives and the negatives. Depending on the season and the rainfall of the year, sometimes you have to stay high up on these little hills or banks to avoid getting your feet wet as you walk around. But at the moment, because the water level is quite low, you can come down the hill a bit and get up closer to the water and see a bit more of the special scenery on the way down. The wooded areas are quite nice to spend some time in though. There's some really nice trees here, including some snow gums and peppermint gums and so on, as well as a variety of other smaller trees like wattles. There have been so many new trees planted in the reserve that it'll be interesting to see how this shapes up over the coming decades. I'll be interested to return again and again and to see how the landscape changes from what was basically an old paddock. One day will probably be much more like a dense woodland. The draw card is always going to be the lagoon though. You'll keep coming back to see the water and to see the birds. And as we round this corner of the lagoon, we often come around to a section where there's many birds. There seems to be a lot of birds will nest in that area, and they're always hanging around, getting a feed and just enjoying this wonderful lagoon that's left here for their use. Of course, the lagoon isn't only for birds. There's all the other creatures that live in the water as well. As you walk around, you'll often hear frogs. I know that at different times of the year you'll see many dragonflies nesting and mating in this area. You'll see lizards. Of course there are snakes. No snakes on a day like today because it's way too cold for them, but all through the warmer weather you will frequently see some snakes. But just take your care, make sure you know where you're putting your foot, and in particular if you're walking through long grass. Now here come the birds up ahead. You may be able to see them in the top third of the screen now. There's a wide array of birds here. There's a lot of black swans. You always see black swans here. In addition, there's a lot of water hens, a few different types of ducks, plus a bunch of other birds I don't even know the names of. I've got to learn a lot about birds yet. These swans are some of my favourites. I always think they're so graceful when they're swimming around. These type of reedy areas, that's where they build their nests, and you'll often see them hanging around. Sometimes all of the birds will nest in those type of areas. It gives them a bit of protection, and it's out of the way of predators. When I first got to the reserve on this walk, a lot of the birds, as I got close to them, flew far away. They didn't want much to do with me, but by the time I'd come around to this part, the birds weren't worried about me at all, unless I got very close to them. They were quite happy swimming out there in the lagoon and doing their own thing. It's so peaceful to walk along and just to be able to look out, see them doing their thing, often ducking their head under the water to do a bit of fishing, get something to eat, and then carrying on with their day. And then sometimes the sun would come out, and just look at that, glistening and shimmering away. What a beautiful place this really is. Along the shore here you'll often get crimson rosellas and a few other types of parrots. You'll see galahs, the occasional cockatoo. There are plenty of black cockatoos in this area as well, which you get to see. They've got such a lovely call. I haven't got one I can share with you on this trip, but often you'll hear them around the district. All of the paths in the park are actually just mowed sections of grass. There aren't any formed sections of gravel paths or anything like that. So you always feel like you're in a natural setting. You don't feel like you're in anything artificial or man-made until you come across some of the old farming remnants that we explored earlier and that I've showcased in another video. But we're still right surrounded by farming land. You have a look across there and you can see a herd of cows, and they're turning their back to a little rain squall that's coming in on the day. They'll always do that. The cows know where to go to get a bit of shelter. So if you're out and caught in something, have a look at where the cows are going. They'll probably give you a good idea on which way to go. And this is a high altitude lagoon. You don't realise it when you're walking around, but it's actually about 1360, 1370 metres altitude above sea level. And it can get quite cold here in the winter. I've been here, and the edge of the lagoon will be just sheets of ice. You'll actually see the water birds standing on top of it sometimes. It's a beautiful place to walk around on a very cold, frosty morning. You'll have ice crystals and many beautiful things to see. But any time of year can be amazing here. Through spring we start to get a few early flowers. In summer we'll get a lot more wildflowers. In autumn it's nice and cool and the snakes start to leave you alone, so you can walk a bit more again. And all year round there are different types of birds to see, and what a beautiful place it is. Of course you'll come across some sections of the track which are a little bit more muddy. Some areas, and because we'd had rain recently before this walk, some areas are going to be muddy and will still have water in them. If you come here in a wet year, some areas of the track will actually be submerged and you'll need to walk through water in some sections, sometimes for only a few metres, sometimes for 20, 30, 40 metres. And just be aware of that. The water won't be deep, but it might come part way up your shin, certainly over the top of your boot anyway. I love these old trees. I love the lichen. Just look at the texture. The phone will stop going somewhere else. What a beautiful old tree that is. While I'm not certain of the age of this specific tree, some of these older trees were probably here when the first Europeans came to the area and started settling the area. And that's pretty awesome to think about. Here's a little section that becomes a creek crossing when it's wet. You can see they put a lot of stones in here to make a bit of a ford. That way they can still drive their vehicles through it even when it's filled up with water. If you have a look down here, you even see there's a big hole. I've got to be careful. Turn around, camera. I've got to be careful. I don't want to fall in the hole. But basically down there, that section there would be at least a metre, maybe even a metre and a half lower than the actual level of the road. And just something to be aware of. If you do wander around off path a bit, there are some bloody big holes you might fall in. Coming up closer now to the cows. Oh shit, there's a big hole there. Don't fall in that. Now, the rain settled down. It's buggered off for a minute, so we're back to normal. For a few minutes till another little bit comes over. The cows are more curious about me now than worrying about trying to get away from the rain, but they knew where they were going. There's this nice little wooded area up here that gives them a bit of shelter and protection when the rain comes in. Good to see. I saw good evidence of kangaroos everywhere I went on this walk, including some that were too far away for me to film properly. But here's a good chance to get a close-up look at some of their feet. So I put my own foot in the picture just to give you a comparison. And basically the kangaroo's foot is almost or pretty much the same size as mine. And mine's a size 12, just for you to compare it with. Now this old fence is a really good indicator of just how shallow this lagoon is. Back when the place was being farmed, they would have drained the lagoon and the water levels would have been even lower. But you can see from how high the posts are sticking out of the lagoon here at this end point that it's really quite shallow and would barely be a metre or more deep in the middle. And way down here in the grass, there are these beautiful little flowers. I don't know what sort of plant this is, but they certainly catch my eye. The only place you can see them is on the path where they've mowed, and the plant's able to stick its head out. But what a beautiful thing. I think these are amazing. Here we are. This is the start of the lagoon one more time. That's been our day out at Little Llangothlin Nature Reserve. We've seen some beautiful lagoons, we've seen a little bit of history, and we've seen plenty of wildlife and birds and so on. And I hope you've enjoyed this walk with me. I've certainly enjoyed this trip today. It was absolutely just what I needed. I can feel all of the stress of the week has just melted away from me. I'm in a great mood. I'm going to go home happy, and I'm going to be really productive now that I've taken the time out to do this. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.